good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one's going on for you at this current point in time. Got the gloves on because we are going to be dealing with checking a battery in a second. If you're going to uncap your battery ever, make sure you have gloves. Make sure you have some of these right here, protective glasses. But today, the battery is not as important as what this is, and that is the NOCO Genius 10 battery charger. Just in case you can't see, zoom in action. It is, you can see the seam right here. This is completely sealed, and yes, plastic everywhere. So I am experiencing this for the first time, but they do have the NOCO Genius 10, the 5, the 2, the 1, and a bunch of other chargers. But the 1, 2, and 5, and 10 refer to direct model numbers. So don't go looking for the Genius 9 or Genius 8 or Genius 7 or 6 thinking you're going to get a deal on a lower model. No, the numbers right here, where it says Genius 10, that refers to 10 amps. So if you look at the red right there, 10A, right, that's for 10 amps. The NOCO 5 does 5, the 2 does 2, and the 1 does 1. So I found this for $100, which was just $30 more expensive than the 5. I figured get all the bells and whistles for $30 more. Somebody recently, their battery died a couple of times. I thought, it'd be nice of me to just get them a battery. And I couldn't find any interstates in the area, so I went and upgraded them to an Everstart AGM. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, 12-volt leaded battery or 12-volt flooded batteries come in 12-volt, 12-volt AGM. They have 12-volt lithium, different battery styles, but AGM is an upgrade. So I went with that. But when I checked this battery, it only had about 65%. Typically, you want to change your battery at around 50 or a little bit less. But I was like, this battery shouldn't be dying if you just park it somewhere. Even with the, your alarm system or with a scanner and a motion detector, it still shouldn't die that easily. We've been getting down to the single-digit temperatures, so I wanted to make sure she was not stuck somewhere, especially somebody who's, disabled and is going here and there, doesn't need to be stuck on the side of the road, So there is a repair feature that the NOCO has, and I'm going to rip this open in a second. And what we're going to do for the sake of this video is I'm going to use my Foxwell 705, which is just to show you, in case you've never seen it before, it's basically a battery analyzer. It's the BT705. You hook it up the way you would any jumper cables, red to red, black to black, or positive to positive, negative to negative. What I'm going to do for this is I'm going to first take a scan of whatever state of health and state of charge the battery is in currently. Then I'm going to charge it fully with the Genius 10. Once that's done, I'm going to take another analysis. When that is done, I'm going to put it on the repair mode to see if we can get it to a more favorable percentage, and in which case this can be repurposed. Maybe she can switch it every 6 months or once a year, kind of go on and off with both batteries. The reason being, Walmart wanted to give me like $5 for it, and I'm like, this is still a 65-70% good battery to just be given $5 for. So, it does need to be cleaned up a little bit, but a little bit of dirt under the hood is totally natural in any vehicle. So let's see if we can get a little more life out of this, repurpose, and use the most we can out of our batteries before we go recycling them. Shall we? Let's do it. And while I'm unwrapping this, I just wanted to point out that a huge selling point to me was the fact that this is IP65 dust and water resistant. Oh, okay, it's a sleeve. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's IP65. So if you happen to leave it and it's raining or a little dusty under the hood, you don't have to worry about this messing up. This can be used. And another thing that I like about it is it adjusts itself internally. So if it's too cold, it'll raise the power to make sure it's sufficiently charging. And if it's in the summer and it's too hot, it doesn't risk overheating, which is pretty cool. Something that the NOCO 10 has that the 5 doesn't is that you can use this as a 12-volt power supply if you need to. So if we zoom in action right here, you can see we have 12-volt for standard batteries. That's what we're going to use today. 12-volt AGM for AGM batteries, and 12-volt lithium for lithium batteries. This is also for ATVs and boats, and it also does 6-volt and 6-volt AGM batteries. So pretty cool that it does all that. All the different indicators up here will let you know if there's any issues. And I'm not lazy, I promise. I will describe these really quick. So the first little from the indicators here,
The first one represents high voltage, so if it's abnormally high voltage, it will let you know like, hey, I'm not going to keep charging this because it's too high. The second one is showing that it's a little battery picture with an X, meaning that your battery is not holding the capacity or charge. So the charger will try to charge it, but if it notices that after a finite amount of time it's just not holding its charge, it'll cut the circuit. So it knows not to just keep pumping in and overwhelming the battery for no reason. The third, probably the easiest and most important because a lot of y'all don't really look, is reverse polarity, which means you have the positive on the negative and the negative on the positive. That light will come on to let you know, yo, you have to change them. Positive goes with the red, negative goes with the black. Okay? And the last one is standby mode.
These are LED indicators to let you know the progress of the battery, and I can definitely appreciate that it's one button to do all of this. At the same time, I kind of fear that if this button stops working, then you just got a really, really big, expensive lump of plastic. You know what I mean? So let us first scan the battery as is right now, and then we can get to charging. And really quick before we do that, I just want to say this is a battery charger / maintainer, not to be confused with a jump pack. Do not click this on your battery thinking it's going to give you a boost. NOCO does have this, and I want to make this clear. They did not send this to me. This is my money. I do like NOCO products. I use their acid detector and cleaner, as well as their corrosion preventative. So NOCO products are definitely solid. But again, this is not the same thing as a jump pack. They do offer that. If that's something you're looking for, that is a different product. Go get that. So I will leave a link in the description to this. This is just a link to Amazon. I am not an affiliate. This is just in case you want to buy this. I'm going to just help you find it a little easier. That's all. Got the negative terminal on the left, positive on the right. If you don't have any kind of markings on the actual battery that show red and black, they will be somehow engraved. So if you look really close, you'll see a minus sign over here and a plus sign on the opposite side, negative and positive. All right, once you plug it up, we've got our analyzer. So we have 12.6 volts currently. We have a 12 volt system. 24 volt systems is when you typically have two batteries in, so like bigger trucks, some Hummers. The regular start and stop. So that is for if you have a regular car or a hybrid or some car that starts and stops. We are not charging it or, in this case, detecting anything inside a vehicle. So we'll just use regular. And in vehicle or out of vehicle, when you use in vehicle with this particular scanner, it's going to also test your charging system, so your alternator connection and how it's charging, as well as your starter to see all the resistances and the speed of your startup. But right now it's out of vehicle. Whether the posts are on the top or on the side of the battery, in this case they're top mounted, and is it a regular AGM or gel battery. Unfortunately, this one cannot do lithium batteries, but fortunately for me, I don't have a lithium battery right now, so it really doesn't matter. Go to regular. CCA is cold cranking amps, CA is cranking amps. So if you want to know what it is, all you have to do is look at the sticker or look up the manufacturer. In this case, cranking amps, we have 690. So we go to CA, click it, and then input whatever value of 690 cranking amps. Battery temperature below or above 0 degrees Celsius. So 0 Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We are in room temperature above 32. So we are going to put above 0 degrees Celsius. All right. And it unfortunately says replace battery. It's 12.59. It's measuring 540 when it's rated for 690. Get what I mean? So it's a good thing that I did replace the battery for her. And it's got 8.3 milliohms of resistance, 66% state of health, and 99% state of charge. So even though the state of charge is pretty good, the state of health is getting to that, usually by 50%, I wouldn't even have it in my vehicle personally. But some people will grind that thing down and keep jumping it to like 40% or 30%. So once you see this starting to get down, state of health definitely is more important. But state of charge, that determines whether you're parked somewhere and you turn it on, and if it doesn't have a charge because you're using headlights and everything, your heated seats, and you're going down the street just to pick up some medicine and come back, then guess what? You're using more power than your car's charging back. And so you might end up with a dead battery, even if the state of health is good, just because the state of charge got below what the car needs to be able to turn on. Remember, it's not just turning on the battery or turning on the starter. It's also small pumps that move oil and move fluids throughout your vehicle that do also require power. All that happening at once. If the car is too cold and not charged enough, you'd be surprised. Even new batteries can fail you sometimes. And for the AGM battery that I did put in her truck, I did measure the milliohms and do that. It was 100% for the state of health and charge, and the milliohms and the resistance was half of this. We got about 4. So for resistance, it was like 4 milliohms. So this battery has double the resistance of the new battery and definitely nowhere near 100% for the state of health. So I'm going to charge this thing up now with the NOCO Genius 10, and then we're going to take a new score. But just to keep in mind, 690 is what it's rated for, 540 is what we're getting currently. Now before I do that, I'm going to take these caps off. Again, gloves and glasses on. I'm going to put yours on right now. Put mine's on as well. I'm just going to pop these caps off and see if the liquid is covering the plates. They call flooded batteries because inside there are cells that are submerged in electrolytes. If they're getting dry, they're supposed to be submerged by probably about 4 or 5 millimeters. So if you look down into the battery and you can't see anything, good. Don't touch it. Don't worry, I'm going to get you in here. Be careful. Please try not to use really long screwdrivers. In case you happen to touch here and then touch over here, you can short your battery. It might not shock you because we have a lot of resistance in us, but you still don't want to damage the battery if you don't have to. And I can definitely see, besides all the dirt, let me bring you in here because you can see the physical pleats inside. So clear as can be, if I put my light in there, you can see, if I move the battery a little bit very carefully just to kind of jiggle the liquid, you can see they are submerged. You can see the reflection of the light when I move it in the liquid. And they are probably about 3 millimeters. So a little bit of evaporation happening, but not anything that would be catastrophic. I'm going to cap these off again and we can get the charging started. Using a microfiber cloth, I'm just going to get in here and very carefully trap as much of the dirt as I can without pushing any of it into the holes. I'm pushing in and away just to get the towel to trap any of that. You want to not get any contaminants in your battery if you can avoid it. Then once we wipe off any of the loose stuff, we can go ahead and cap it back off. Be very careful when you tap it. Anything can drip and drop. You don't want anything landing on your hands. This is sulfuric acid, so please be super careful. Again, no hammers if you need to. Little light taps just to get the caps back on. Worst case scenario, do use a rubber mallet if you have to. Plugs like any other plug. We of course have to plug in the clamps or the contacts. I think that it's also cool that NOCO has a little cap in here with a fuse, and that fuse is a standard type of replaceable fuse, so in case they pop, you're not worrying about customer service or having to get them to send you out a special type of fuse. It's just going to be a standard 10 amp fuse, I believe. Oh, so I was wrong. Okay, there's actually a 20 amp fuse in here, but it is a standard fuse with the 2 little contacts like anything you'd find under your hood. So if you need to test the voltage or check any of the connections, check for continuity to see if the voltage is dead, you can just hook up your multimeter right here, and it is in fact protected by this little cap. Very good touch there, NOCO. Very well done. So it hooks up, just a normal little clasp right here, but each end is covered by these little connectors, so if you have to disconnect this and store it, the contacts are protected. I think that's cool. I usually put a little bit of dielectric grease just to keep any dirt and debris from, or moisture from building up, but with these little caps, very nice, and they're tethered so they won't go too far. Positive to positive, negative to negative. So for the mode, all we have to do is press the mode button, and I'm just going to click the first one. You'll see the little LED. Let me just turn off my light so you can see it. The first LED says 12 volts, and the first indicator is red. It's very faint, letting you know that it's scanning and also that the battery needs some time. So we're going to let this go, and when it is done charging, it will slowly move up through. It's already starting to light up the second light right here. So we shall come back when everything is back to normal. When this shows a solid green light and only one indicator, we know we're good. Alright, just to zoom in action, you can see right where my finger is right here. I have the light turned off. So the 12 volt light is on. That single solid green light means it's done charging. It's at 100%. So the next thing we're going to do is test after the charge. So we now have 12.81, 12.8 volts after the charge. 12 volt, regular, out of vehicle, top post, regular, crank amps, 690, above 0 degrees Celsius, and it still says replace batteries. After the charge, it's actually 538, so it did worse after the charge. The previous was a 540, so definitely a battery that was on its way out. But I want to test this repair mode, so I'm going to let the NOCO Genius do the repair on this and see if electronically we can get this to be any state higher than the previous was. Okay, so the state of health is 65%. It was just 66, so pretty accurate. The state of charge is 100%, so good that it is holding a 100% charge. But the state of health, we can definitely do better than that. Negative to negative, positive to positive. We now have the NOCO in. We now have the Genius 10 in repair mode. So we have our repair button flashing there. All you have to do to achieve it, once you plug it in, you don't have to click through anything else, just press and hold. It will take you down to 6 volts, then click over to 12 volt repair and let it do its thing. Now while we wait for the repair, two things to note. One, it does come with a 3-year warranty, which is pretty cool. And in case anybody cares, it is, where is it? 21 inches in terms of the length of the cable. So this is something you probably want to set up on a bench or tether this somewhere under your hood very close by, right? This isn't going to be like leave it on your dashboard and then wrap it to your undercarriage. Not going to happen. Right here it says recover lost battery capacity and restore batteries to original performance. Now we know it has the capacity because we saw that it got to 100 after the charge. I want to see if that original performance can do anything for the state of health, not the state of charge. And also, if I'm not mistaken, there is an override or a force charge mode. So if your battery happens to drop to completely dead, it's been sitting somewhere forever, and it's even below 1 volt, this thing can basically force power to it up until it gets to a safe amount to where they can drop down the amperage and voltage and it can normally charge. So I think that's a really cool touch, the fact that internally, not only is it dustproof and waterproof, but it's also able to fluctuate in temperature and power output to really optimize the quality of life for your batteries. That's cool. Little things like that are huge points because they really think about the product rather than just selling you something. If the product is good, it'll speak for itself, but it's the mission or the outcome. That's what you're paying for.
Really quick, it is in the repair mode. I just wanted to see what the voltage difference was. So we have our negative to negative and positive to positive. Kind of hard to do this with one hand. But if you touch, we'll see we're getting about 15.5 volts. Okay. So it is increasing the voltage. However, the amperage is going down. I know I can't pick this up with my phone, but if you put your ear like right here, you can hear the bubbling of the internals. It's still cold to the touch. It's not like it's overheating anything. The pack is warm on top, but otherwise, even the cables, there's nothing that would suggest this thing is like stressed out in any way. So very cool design with this. They definitely took their time to make this.
So while this thing is charging up, it takes about 4 hours from what I just saw for the repair process to take place. With that being said, some people do recommend that you charge the battery completely, as we did, before entering the repair mode. With that being said, what is the point of the repair mode, or what is it doing? Now, for those of you who are curious, battery desulfation is basically, or battery sulfation rather, let's talk about the issue first. So the issue is basically when sulfate crystals start building up on the cells or on the plates, you basically have this buildup causing issues with chemical reactions that are happening inside the battery, leading to inefficiencies. What I mean by that is you have longer charge cycles and shorter discharge. So because of that buildup of those crystals on the plates or on the cells inside your battery, you're going to find that you have shorter capacity. So that over time, especially as it starts to degrade, leads to eventually a dead battery that just can't be repaired. So when we go through these repair processes, it might work for a really old battery, but realistically speaking, if you have a battery that's, 1%, 2% state of health, this is not going to fix it. I want to make that clear. No promises here. If you have something in the, 60 range, this might work for something like that, but you can't let your battery go too far gone before you start doing something about it. If this was too far gone, then yes, 100%. It goes to the recycle center, no issue. But I want to see if I can get this to at least 80, 90 and potentially use it as a backup for a junker or something. Another thing it does is for stratified batteries. So there's battery desulfation and battery stratification. Now, battery stratification, unlike desulfation, has to do with the electrolytes rather than the plates. When there's a separation between the acid and the electrolytes and you have more acid sitting at the bottom, there's more reactions happening down here, leading to more of the battery here having to work harder to discharge power to where it needs to go. So with that being said, when those separations happen, it's an issue. Electronically correcting that leaves a current that will break up that separation and integrate those two into a mixture. Definitely be on top of your batteries. Don't wait for a fix-it mode to come along and fix everything. Maintenance, prevent and prepare. Don't repent and repair. Okay? All right. By the way, as of this little part here, it is officially Happy New Year 2025. It's like 1:50, 2 o'clock in the morning. So it took about the actual 4 hours that were noted here. But we're going to put the tester back on now that it's finished. Okay. We got 13.05 volts. 12 volt system. Regular. Out of vehicle. Top post, regular, cranking amps, 690. Above 0 degrees. And it's still saying replace. Now it did go up to 560 versus the original 540, and then the next was 538. So definitely has come down in rating, but let's check that state of health. So the state of health did go up to 68 from the original 8 milliohms of resistance, and the state of charge is holding. So yes, it is recommending that we still change the battery, but it did technically repair. But remember, just because it has a repair mode doesn't mean it can take any battery from death and just bring it back from the dead. So keep that in mind. Can this charge it? Yes, if you're going to park your car for a while, this is a good battery maintainer. More than anything, it is a power supply, and more than anything, you can hear the bubbling as it starts changing the voltage to try to cook off some of that sulfation and really give the battery its best, best use. Now, would I use a battery like this at 68%? Absolutely. However, once it gets to about 50%, my personal preference, anything 50% or lower, I would just 100% change the battery out. But a 68 amp hour or a 68% health versus $5 from Walmart for a core charge, I would use this as a backup for a beater car or something you just want to kind of work on. So keep that in mind. Cold cranking amps, you won't notice whether it's working or not until you get to the winter when you really need a cold car to crank over. When you're dealing with that and you're really testing it in the cold will really test whether those cold cranking amps are going to work. So while we still have it, I'm just going to test the cold amps anyway. It's starting to drop in voltage. So 12 volt, regular, out of vehicle, top post, regular. Instead of CA or cranking amps, we're going to go up to CCA, which is cold crank amps. For cold cranking amps, this battery is rated for 550. All right, you got 550 CCA. No gimmicks here. Above 0 Celsius. And that's where we're at. 444 instead of 550. We're at 12.97 volts. So either way, it's still saying to replace the battery, but 68%, 0.03 resistance. So it is what it is, people. But being able to test your batteries, charge your batteries, top off your batteries, and otherwise maintain batteries is how we keep them from ending up prematurely going to the scrapyard, or rather being recycled if we can get the most life out of them. It's going to save your money long term. So if you're going to park your car for a while, don't just leave it in a shed or a barn or your attic or your garage or wherever you're storing it. Use a little maintainer. You don't have to use this one. Again, no affiliation, no nothing. If you want to use a battery tender or NOCO or some other brand, by all means, I'm just showing you whether this works or not. So as far as charging, it works. As far as the repair process, we were able to see an increase, even if it's only a few percent. But will this bring you back from, a 3, 4, 5% to 100%? Absolutely not. We were able to see this one only change a few percent up. Certainly nothing that would warrant you regretting a new battery. So definitely, if you get a new battery, less headache. But this will be a way to maintain it. With that being said, you have yourself an excellent day. Hope you don't get stuck somewhere. Make sure your battery is 100% before you trust it. Sound good? Work smart, and Happy New Year.